Get ready to gear up and get smart. SoundCheck Music Center presents Tech Talk.
Tech Talk.
A workshop dedicated to get the basics to musicians all over the universe. Held once a month at SoundCheck Music Center in Grass Valley off Highway 49 and Brunswick on Maltman Drive. Come by. Admission is free. And now, here's your host, Mike Eaton.
The AKG D12E, and it's from the late 70s, early 80s. They were using it a lot. And how it changed, the AKG D112 is used nowadays. You see it all over the place, live, in the studio. It started with the D12, which was their original, it's a dynamic mic. But the way it works is they put a bass chamber inside, and what it does is it gives you a 60 and 120 hertz, up 60 to 120 hertz bump. And a bump is 3 or 4 dB bump.
Is that why they use it in broadcasting and stuff?
That's why they use it in broadcast. It brings a little bit more of the bottom out. And it can handle high sound pressure levels because of their internal shock mount built inside, rather than having a shock mount as you'd see on a large diaphragm.
Right.
This one gives you inside. And with the foam windscreen, you don't get any noise from this. But you don't want it touching anything. The kick drum cannot touch anything, the skin, the drum, the cord coming off. You don't want it to touch anything because it can cause so many problems with a vibration getting in and resonant frequencies. Yeah, drums back in the day used to be the big problem. Basically, you were spending all day getting your drum sound set up because of the rooms were deficient. You have a large enough room, it kind of takes the whole worrying about sound pressure levels, too much pressure in a room. It disappears with a large room. You can use gobos, you can use, which are isolation devices.
What do they look like?
What's that?
What does a gobo look like?
Oh, I'm sorry. A gobo is, well, they come in all different sizes. You can use them they might be as tall as an amp to block off. So you have an amp going in a studio with a bass player over there. He might have a taller one, thicker one. It absorbs more. There's all different size ones for all different rooms, for all different configurations, for all different musicians. You have a full band, they're most likely going to isolate people in different rooms because there'll just be too much pressure in one room to record them. So I'm going to get this hooked up, and we'll put it inside the kick here. And what I've done on the kick is I have a 4-inch hole in. And what that's going to give me, which you don't get by miking it on the outside, which a lot of jazz drummers will keep the skin, no holes, and mic it really close. And maybe sometimes even get the whole set done, and they'll have a mic 15 feet back, picking up the kick, because they want that real open live sound, real instrument sound. This is going to give you more of an attack, which is more of the beater, but at the same time, the energy coming out the hole, so you're going to get a lot of bass. If you bring it too far outside the hole, boom, boom, boom. It's just going to be boomy sounding, very hard to deal with, and it'll be real, almost pillowy sounding. There's two different camps of thinking on that. Basically, one camp is, no, I'm going to mic top and bottom, everything's tight. But if you're in the wrong room, it's going to be too many mics, you're going to run into phase problems. Once you put a mic on top and on the bottom, you got to make sure that you can adjust the phase enough where you won't hear it, because they're 180 degrees out of phase. So if the phase, you'll hear it. Once you pan those two together and the bass disappears, it's basically phasing out. They're canceling out each other, basically. Yeah, canceling out the frequencies. So if you don't hear it, then your phase is fine and you're not going to have problems. So let's get the kick drum hooked up here with a new mic stand. You get it down in the hole, and when you have it in here, you want it as far in as you can go without touching anything. Just don't want to touch anything. Now, if you can adjust it, let's say it's just too much attack, getting too much of the beater sound, which be clicky, maybe more thin sounding, you can pull it out a little bit. But once you get to a certain point where you're outside of that, it can turn into pillowy, really soft, and the kind of kick that's hard to deal with, a boomy, too much bass. Now the snare is the same way. You want to get it tight. I'm going to use this mic right here. And you want to get it in. I use the 3-finger rule. You don't want to get it too close to the edge of the drum. You're going to pick up resonant frequencies, any noise in the drum that he might, unless he's a perfect drummer, hits it in almost the same spot all the time. You might hit it over here, it's just going to boom. It's going to hit this, it's just going to be horrible. It could even hurt the speakers. So anyways, 2 to 3 fingers off the drum, aimed at the center. And the reason that you bring it in but don't have it too close, I mean, it's going to be in the way of the drummer for one thing, and it's going to be too close to the attack of the stick. But you want to make sure that you can get it in and keep it away from the hi-hat as much as you can. The hi-hat, again, unless he's a very competent drummer, he can hit this snare hard and still stay really soft on his hi-hat, which a lot of drummers will have problems with. You want to keep it isolated as much as you can from the hi-hat. Now the mic underneath, you can get it closer because you're miking a different part of the drum. You want to be down, not right on it, but you got to be close enough where the isolation, the bleed isn't too much on the kick, on the toms, and everything else.
Right.
So you got to get it close enough, within a couple inches. And again, you have to check the phase, because most likely you're going to have to hit the phase button. If you don't have a phase button, they make inline phase converters. So it's just going to switch it out 180 degrees. Another way of doing it, if you know you're going to be using that cable, and you can mark it, you can basically wire the cable out of phase. You have to make sure you mark that, because if you use it in the wrong spot, you can mess up some equipment. Hook it to the wrong thing, hook it to a compressor, or mic breathe the wrong way. But no, it should. That's an easy way to go. It's probably one of the best ways to go. But they do have phase converters. Okay, so we have the snare mic'd up. Now let's go with the hi-hat. Now the hi-hat, you want to isolate the hi-hat a different way. And the way we're going to do the hi-hat, oh, actually I can just use the same mic from the snare. So we bring the snare mic over here.
So would you use a 58 for the snare, or 57, or?
You know what? You can. You can. What I like to use for the hi-hat, and you know what? I'll switch it out just for that reason. Since we are demonstrating which mics to use with it. Thank you. Turn this down because I did have this hooked up for. I don't really need to talk in PA in here. I think everybody can hear me. Use a condenser mic. You can use a small condenser mic. What you want to be careful with is, because it is a condenser mics are way more sensitive than a dynamic mic, and I'll talk about that for a second. Dynamic mics are basically transducers. They're moving coils. Basically, a speaker is a transducer, like a microphone, but it's the opposite of a speaker. You're going in the wrong way, in through the outdoor, basically. And what that does, there's a mass inside here with a coil wrapped around it. And as those wires vibrate, they change the sound energy into voltage, which will be changed into audio, which goes through the transformer and is converted to basically more voltage into the mixer. What's great about these is they're not very sensitive. You have to scream in them to make them sound good. That's why you can put them right up on a guitar amp, right on a snare, and you won't have any problems. You wouldn't want to do that with a condenser mic. Most likely will blow it out because they just can't handle that kind of pressure. But not all mics. If you look at, not all condenser mics are the same. If you look at one like this, or a U87 copy, which Saul brought these in for me to demonstrate, and these are TLM 103s. These are Neumanns, and what they give you is a mic that it's cardioid pattern, but it's really versatile, being that it does the way the grill's shaped, it can handle more pressure than, let's say, a tube or a really small pencil condenser can do. That's why I really like, these are one of the most versatile new mics I think out on the market. I just love them. You can put them on overheads, pianos, you can use them on acoustic guitars, anything almost. And they're really warm sounding, which is closer to like a ribbon mic sound, which ribbon mics are extremely warm. They don't have a frequency range that is wide as a condenser mic, but what they give you is such a musical presence within the mix. That's why it's good to combine different mics, especially if you're doing, let's say, a bunch of different acoustic instruments with a dulcimer and a violin, a cello. If you combine the mics to fit in the mix for what the instrument needs.
Thank you.